Hey everyone, welcome back to Kimball's Corner. Today I'm going to be doing a piece with Jane Davenport layer cakes and colored pencils, because why wouldn't I? I did a piece the other day and it got a lot of reactions and people were wondering how I did it, so I thought I would just show you. And I'm going to try and... sticky! So I'm going to turn the page. This is a hand-bound Green and Stone Arch watercolor paper sketchbook, and Green and Stone is a little shop in Chelsea outside of London. And then this is the character that I'm going to be drawing today. I guess, well, he was drawn upside down, but there he is. His name is Kochek. He's a character that Rocky and I made up a long time ago. And with Kochek, he has a lot of warm tones, so I did bring out some autumnal colors, because 'tis the season. And so he has like a golden brown hair, he has like golden, somewhat pale skin, he smokes. I just feel like those people, can you edit that out? So yeah, we'll get started. I don't know what I'm gonna draw him in, that's like the big problem. But I will be grabbing a warm tone. Swatches. I'm going to be using a warm tone since he does have a lot of warm tones already in his character. So I'll be picking a warm colored pencil. Give it a quick sharpen. So with this particular sharpener, number one is to really cut back on the wood, and then you put it in the blade 2 and that trims the pigment for you, the lead. So layer cakes are a lot like gouache, so you can layer them up and make them very opaque. I don't mind seeing my sketch come through, so I'm not too worried about that, but if you are, you can layer it up enough to where you won't see your sketch. Now when I do these portraits, I like to kind of just give them kind of a big head. It's kind of like the skull area, and then this is kind of where the jaw is. He has an almond-shaped eye. He'll be in here somewhere. He does wear kind of rectangle glasses, so let's give him some nice eyes. I kind of just forget all about what the actual character shape of the head looks like, because this is just a cute stylized version. When your drawing looks straight down at your page, well, that's why a lot of people have their books raised like this, so it's looking straight at it. Because if you draw like this, it's gonna be a little skewed, but that's okay. I mean, it's okay with me. I don't mind having a wonky face every now and then, but if it bothers you, it helps. Let's give him a cute little nose, and for a nose, we're keeping it simple. We're just gonna draw the little shadow. These are little dimples for his smile, and we're just gonna connect them. And then do a little lower lip shadow. Very simple. All right, come in here, let's draw his little pupils. Well, this is his iris. I always just draw the highlight in the same spot, it doesn't bother me. This is his pupil, and then this is a shadow cast by his upper eyelid. And then we're just gonna do the same thing on this side. We'll be fixing his eye shape as we go along. Gonna add in his eyelids. We don't have to get too detailed since we are gonna be painting over this. He looks like, come hither. Which, I mean, if you know his story, that's a very good look for him. He does smoke. Should I give him a little cigarette, or is that weird? Yeah, okay. We're just gonna give him a little stubby. We can always paint over it if we don't like it. Normally he has a long thin face, but I'm going for a cuter style, so I'm kind of rounding it out. Well, I'm really rounding it out, and bringing all of his features to the lower half. And then keeping in mind like the spacing here and here, just roughly the same. And they usually say do an eye width in the middle, but I mean, this is a total caricature, so. He does have a little bit of stubble. Well, I think he actually has a goatee, but a stubble is cuter in this style. He usually wears thin scarves, so I'll incorporate that because that's always fun. I forget, he does do his hair up in pigtails too. Didn't give him a scarf here, but I like this top better. Let's do a little scarf. Kind of wears it loose. Oh, and it's also nice to draw the shape of the body, so that way you know how to layer your fabrics over the top of it. And it can just drape down. And we'll have it come down. Maybe it'll come down on both sides. And the other one can just come down here. And then I will give him the two-tone shirt. So this is a little indentation where the seam is. So just drawing in the seams. Maybe we'll give him like some kind of pattern or something on his shirt later. All right, in this style I like to give kind of big ears. Doesn't matter who the character is. And Kochek has quite a few piercings, so we'll put an earring there. And he's got an earring here. And he's got hoops. And does he have earrings on the other side? I don't know. We'll at least give him a lower hoop. And maybe one up here. And then I know he has sideburns, so we're gonna bring that down. So I'm gonna give him glasses. He kind of just has like long, square, rectangular, I guess, glasses. So we just draw a rectangle around each eye. And then usually, at least on my glasses, the inside kind of rounds. So I round out the inside of the glasses. Just a little bit. Don't forget the nose piece. Don't you think he looks smarter? Can kind of give his eye a bit more shape. Show where the lashes are gonna be. For usually when I do male characters, I usually don't do a lot of wispy lashes. I just do like kind of just a big shape. It makes it a little less feminine. Unless you have a feminine character, then it doesn't matter. Add all the lashes you want. All right, and then when I come up here, we're gonna kind of just loosely draw in, or lightly, oh wait. He needs eyebrows. If I don't draw them now, I'll just completely forget. We're gonna come in here and lightly draw in his hairline. No widow's peak, go straight across, and it kind of just comes down. All right, usually he has hair strands that come down, so I'll probably do one up here, and it's gonna go behind his ear. Give a little curl to it, why not? And then this side, we'll just do a smaller piece that goes down. And then the rest of his hair, he usually wears it in pigtails, but I think I'm just gonna have it pulled back. So I'm just drawing the shape of like his hair being pulled back around his head. All right, I think for his hair, I'm gonna actually give him a bun, because if it's in a ponytail, you're not really gonna see it. And pigtails are just gonna be a little too crazy for this. So with this, I'm just gonna draw a miniature version of what I did around his head, just a little shape, and then draw the hair strands, kind of curving around a little donut in the back of his head. Add a little shading. It'll help you remember where to add the dark colors when you paint. Like right here, his hair's curving over, so I'm gonna darken this in. And same on this side. You don't have to do that, but it does help me when I paint, just to kind of remember where the shadows go. All right, at this point, I think the sketch is good, and I think we're ready to paint. Keep the pencils handy though, because we'll be using them after we paint to do a lot of the detailing. All right, I clipped my pages down since I'm gonna be using a lot of water. I don't want the pages to warp too much, so I just clipped them down. All right, I'm gonna use my Jane Davenport Goddess Mister bottle. With layer cakes, you don't wanna oversaturate them because they can get really creamy pretty quickly, but I do give them a light misting just so they're activated and ready for me to use. All right, now with this guy, I'm gonna start with his skin, so I'm gonna wet the areas where the skin's gonna lay down just to help the colors blend and blur together a little bit better than if they were dry. Actually, before I wet the paper, I'm going to take a picture with my phone. This is a super easy thing to do to just see if you have any mistakes that you wanna fix, because it's much easier to fix now than it is later. Just edit it real quick. Use your crop tool, and up here click this, and it'll show you it's a little wonky, but I can live with that. But if the eyes were really uneven or the glasses or something, right now would be the good time to fix it. But I'm not bothered by it enough to do that. All right, now I can start on his skin. So I'm gonna wet the paper to help the paint flow just where his skin is. Sometimes it's a little tricky because of the glare, but if you just angle your head just right, you can work around it. And you need to use good paper to do this, otherwise it can start eating up the paper. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You are going to be painting over all of this. I'm going to use my handy dandy, very old Jane Davenport brush. I think this is the first one that I got. It's still going strong. It's been about 5 years of wear and tear. I am pretty rough with my brushes. I'm going to start with the palest color and just put it all over where his skin is. And since it's so light, you don't have to be too precious with it. It doesn't matter if it gets on some spots that it's not supposed to. And I like to use it like watercolor when I first start and then build up the layers slowly. And like I said, I really don't go super opaque with these. And while it's wet, let's bring in some pink. Because you know I like pink cheeks and pink ears and a pink nose. So I'm gonna rinse my brush off and we're just gonna work that color into the lighter color. And a lot of this will be covered up with other layers, but some of it will shine through. I like using these paints because I can use them like watercolors, or you can build up and use them like acrylics, or more like gouache. These will always be water reactive, they don't set permanently. I really like to use a purple like this. It's a little bluish, a little softer for shading. But you can use any color, like a mauve, anything like a berry color would work. It would be a little more red, obviously. But I add this just where the shading's gonna be. Since I kind of do overhead lighting, it looks like makeup right now. But if you add it everywhere where there's shading, it looks a little less. And we are gonna go over with a brown. Just doing a shadow where his hair might be making some shadows. Under his lip, oh, and maybe under his cigarette. I like to use something like this where it has a textured bottom so I can really get the bristles moving and it gets the paint out. If you're doing watercolors, you can just use 2 jars of water. You don't need a textured bottom. And then I'll rinse it off in here, and that's cleaner. We're just gonna take this darker skin tone and put it over the purples that we laid down and kind of blend it out. Give a quick rinse, doesn't have to be super clean. And go back to that lighter color and we can just work them together. And that's basically how we're gonna shade all of his skin. All right, so we're gonna just take the darker skin tone and we're just gonna layer it over the purples. And you'll see little edges like this, little hard cauliflowering happening. You can just swipe it if it bothers you. It doesn't really bother me, but I just wanted to show you. It's not a big deal. A little darker on the inside of the ear, underneath. Actually, the whole ear can just be darker because it's pushed back from the face. And we're just gonna do darker on the edge of his face, just kind of give it a round shape. It's cute. And here's his chin. So we're just gonna draw a little circle. We'll work on it later. Gonna add some more of that lighter color to help blend this in. You can also do a little bit of lifting. So if you rinse your brush and dry it off a bit, you can press down and kind of pull the color off the page. And that'll help bring the white of the page back and get rid of any excess color that you don't necessarily want. You can kind of see up here, like the purple is starting to come through, because with layer cakes, they kind of sink into the paper and like it'll sink into the colors that are already there. Do the little shadows under his glasses. And when I do boy characters, I usually just use a skin tone for the lips instead of adding pinks or reds or whatnot. And I'm noticing that like up here, it's kind of like a different color than the rest of his face. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of the darker skin tone, put it on under the bridge of his nose and just lightly bring it up here. Just to help tie it in a little bit better. Again, we will be using colored pencils later on to really tighten up the colors, so it's not a huge deal if it's not perfect right now. And I think that is his skin tone done. Let's give it a dry. Now he has golden eyes, but I don't want them to be too golden, so I'll start with this bright yellow. And since it's the lightest part, I'm just gonna cover the whole thing. It's pretty translucent. And then I'm gonna come in with a brown color. Maybe this, we'll see how it looks. Fingers crossed. I'm just gonna dab off the excess on a paper towel. Then I can come back in here and do a little bit more control. I just didn't want it to completely cover up all the yellow. Do a quick dry on it, and then I can do brown for like the pupils and the outline of his eyes. This might even be a good brown for eyelashes. So just kind of going where the shape of his pupil is, and around the eye. I'll be coming back in with colored pencils, so again, not too worried. Just add a little bit of details. So I'm going to grab a thinner brush, and I'm going to get it wet, and I'm going to add quite a bit of water to this because I want it somewhat inky, and I'm going to use it for his eyelashes. See if that'll work. I might have to go with a darker one, but we'll see how this goes. You can kind of see the pencil sketch underneath. So we're just going over with a very unsteady hand. Now, I should have actually colored the whites of his eyes first, because this will reactivate when I paint it, so I might just do the whites of his eyes with colored pencils. I'm not good at makeup or eyeliner, so we're hoping this is good enough. And then I'm going to bring the color down where his pupils are again and really draw his pupils in. Just kind of bring that shadow of the iris down from the eyelid. And do it over here too, just a little bit. They don't have to be perfect. We don't know what he's smoking. So I just took off a little bit of the color because I want to use it for his eyelids. So same color, but just a little bit thinner. And I can also use that for the shadow of his nose. Again, just keeping it simple. And even down here. He looks a little happy. And then I just took a clean brush and I'm kind of pulling that shadow color up into his upper lip. So just working on that little shadow under the bottom lip. And a little shadow coming off from his cigarette. Grab a larger brush. I just want to kind of smooth that out a little. And then taking the same color, just adding a little water to it. Don't want it too strong, but I can use it. Oh, that's very strong. So I can use it to just define his ears, put a little shadow under his earrings, and just do that on both sides. Keep it simple, we're not going for realism. And going back to the fine brush and getting it watered down a little bit, we can just put in some of these little whiskers. We can also use it for a little bit of line work. Make sure the paint is dry, otherwise it's going to bleed a bit, and we don't want that. I can use the same color for eyebrows. It is going to look a little funny. That's too much water. It's going to look a little funny just because there isn't a lot of contrast happening yet. We're only just now introducing it, so once it starts getting everywhere, it'll look a little better. Alright, so now that I've added a bit of the detail to his eyebrows, I think now is a good time to go into his hair, which I'm going to be doing almost all of it gold, and then I'll blur in some brown while it's still wet, so it kind of has a wet on wet effect. And then once that dries, I'll bring in a darker, well, the same brown, but it'll appear darker because it's more opaque, and it'll give like some hair streaks and stuff. Alright, so for his hair, we're going to do the same thing we did with his skin, is we're just going to kind of put some water down. You can tell the water's just a little dirty, or my brush is, but it doesn't matter because his hair is going to be brown. But what I'm going to do is after I wet it all, I'm going to add some gold color, because that'll be kind of like, it'll warm it up and it'll just be a nice gold hue throughout. But I also want to keep in mind where my highlights are going to be. So that's like the shadow under the hair that comes down. And then up here, just be a little mindful. It's not, I mean, you can color the whole thing gold if you really want to, because the gold can just be the highlight for you. There's not much highlight down here, so I'm going to just color the whole thing. And his earrings are gold, so let's just add a little bit of that on there. I'll probably cover them later with some gold gesso, which is a little translucent, but this gold will be behind that and it'll look shiny and pretty. Hopefully. Oh, I forgot about his sideburns, which I can mostly do with colored pencil, but alright, and now while it's still wet, I'm just going to come into the brown that I've been using for his eyebrows and whatnot, and we'll add that in, since he actually has a golden brown hair color. I'm just lifting off some of that color that was really dark there, and I can just put it in other parts of the painting. Just gonna darken it up around his sideburns. Because sideburns are usually pretty dark. Do a little darker under here. I may add a little more gold in it. It looked like it washed a lot of the gold out. Keeping in mind that the light's coming from the top, so this is a big hair loop that comes down. So I'm doing behind it so it'll help it to stand out a little, because the light's catching it. Alright, rinse the brush out, then we're going to dry it real quick. So with the layer cakes, they come with a clear lid, which are great for mixing palettes. And since this brown color is so strong just fresh out of the pan, it's a little too dark, so I'm going to use this to just kind of calm it down a little bit. And I should have used a different brush so I can get some finer lines, but we'll see how this goes. The thing I like about this brush is once the paint starts to dry on it, it starts to get little split ends, and then I can get really fun little hair details. But as it is right now, it's working quite nice. We can do the bun. So the bottom of the bun, behind his head will be dark. So we can literally just do a dark line like that, and then just push up. And some hair goes a little bit further, and some's a little bit shorter. And you just kind of follow the curves. Just kind of pretend like it's a donut. And then we can bring some of these colors, or some of these streaks coming in this way, so it's like curving around the top of his head. Remembering that we want to work behind this piece of hair. And then we just bring streaks in. And the further down the head, the less highlights there are, just because it's not catching so much of the light. And then this piece is the piece that's not pulled behind his head. So it'll have some longer strands. And same with this piece. And we'll get behind that to help it stand out a little better. And then this hair is curving around his head from the back. And since this hair is in the back of the head, it's somewhat darker than the rest. Doesn't really catch as much light. So we can go a little bit heavier with the color. And same with this side. Kind of working around the earrings. Maybe it'll catch a little bit of light down here where it curls. And then I can go back to my gold color, rinse the brush, go back to this gold color, and just add just another layer of color in. Doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of it's going to settle back into the paper, but I just want to warm up his hair. I'm working with the yellow somewhat thick, but it's still translucent, so you can see the brown that I just worked. So the painting of his hair is done, so I'm going to dry it off, and we'll do the rest of the details with colored pencils. Maybe add some loose strands, because nobody's hair is perfect. At least mine's never perfect. And I can actually paint in his glasses, which I could do in the same colors. I could paint them gold, and then just add like a little bit of brown in there, a little tortoise shell maybe. And then we'll move on to his clothing. And then for his shirt, I'm going to do kind of just like a murky green, nothing too fancy. I'm going to wet the page first. So I'm going to again, I'm just going to wet where his shirt is. Just makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to, but it does make it a bit easier, especially if you want to blend some other colors into it, which I don't know if I do or not. We're going to find out though. And I think for his scarf, I really like brown, this reddish brown, brown, and orange, so I might do that for his scarf. Give him some stripes. This area can be a little bit darker just because it is under his scarf. Can even add a little bit of gold, just a little yellow, just to add a little more interest. Don't have to. Maybe right here, there's a little bit lighter. Grab the lid. A little of that color, and then maybe take a little blue. Maybe a little brown. A little more green. Just mix up a little bit of a darker version. You can just use that for like some shading. Rinse the brush. I'm going to dry it really quick. It's not completely dry, so the paper is slightly damp just to help with shading. I see a drop of water. I'm gonna add a little more green to this. We'll just use that for creases, shadows. You know, it's fabric. It's got all sorts of wrinkles and stuff in it. Just soften some of the edges. You know, if you look at your clothing, you have wrinkles all over the place, and some are hard, some are soft. You just work with it. And that's probably good enough for his shirt. Let's just fully dry that now. All right, for the scarf, since I am gonna do it these colors, very autumnal colors, I'm gonna do the shading with this brown color. And I didn't wet it first because I want them to be somewhat harsh, because if you look at how a scarf lays across you, like it's pretty thin fabric, it's gonna have lots of wrinkles. Do a little bit darker on the bottom. This is where the scarf is overlapping, so there's a little more shadow there. Maybe a little on the edges just to define it. You can literally just put some strands in. And what I'm hoping is I can glaze over the top of this with the other colors and have these shadows show through. And glazing is when you just do a light application of a color over top another color. So we're hoping that'll work. If not, we'll figure it out later. I think I'm gonna use this brush, and we'll start with the lightest color. I should probably dry that first, otherwise it's gonna just blend all the colors together. All right, now that that's dry, we're gonna try glazing. So we're gonna activate the orange and don't want it too runny. And we're just gonna do a stripe. And we're gonna kind of leave 2 spots for 2 other stripes because I'm gonna use 2 other colors. Hopefully that's enough space. And it's okay if the brown doesn't shine through every spot that you laid it down. I'm kind of making little bumps where my shadows were, because that's where the fabric, you know, bends and folds. All right, let's try another color. We'll go to the next lightest, which is like this color here, and it's a very pretty red. We'll just put that right next to the orange. Add a little more water. Rinse the brush off, and we're going to go with the dark brown. All right, and then we'll clean that up with some, probably just a dark brown colored pencil to make it simple for ourselves. I think I just need to add a little orangey glow to the tip of his cigarette, and then we can add some darker color to that with colored pencil. I don't know why I added red. That's fine. So now I'm gonna clean everything up, and we are gonna get the colored pencils out. So I think I'm just gonna use a dark rich brown. It's a warmer tone, it has a little red in it. And I'm gonna use that for a lot of the line work. Sharp. All right. And since our sketch is still somewhat visible, this part's pretty easy. And if you don't like line work, you can up the contrast with your painting, or you can just skip this step, but I really like it. You don't have to do all the lines, but it does help. do a little shading. Just go over the top. I can even use this color. I'll use it a little bit lighter, but I can still use it for the skin. Just use a little less pressure so it's not as dark going down. And then I'm gonna add a little bit more of a reddish brown. So we use this just to add a little more richness to his hair, even his skin. Might be able to use it for this, some little lines around here. And it doesn't have to be everywhere. It might make your picture a little more interesting just seeing little bits of color changes throughout. All right, I think now's a good time to shade the eyes. There's not a warm gray in this collection, like a light warm gray, so I'm gonna use one of the Prismacolors. It's the 30% French gray. And I'm also gonna use white, just because it's a brighter white than that one. And that's my preferred white. I just shade near the top of the eye. I mean, it is a ball, so just kind of shade it. And then I bring the white in to just mostly soften the texture, and it does pastelize the color a little bit. So if it is a little too dark, this will pull it back. And just do little highlights all over the place. But we can add little streaks in the hair. You could also do this, I mean, there is a white layer cake, but this is just easier. I'm basically just reinforcing some of the highlights that are there, and they may have gotten a little blurry or smudged. This just helps them come back a little. And then I think for his earrings, I'm just gonna do a golden yellow. I'm just gonna outline, because I do want to go over with a gold gesso. Let's do a little bit of pink down here for his tear duct. Do a little white highlight just on the top of the cigarette to help it stand out. Didn't do much, but we'll work on that. I could actually add a little shadow underneath with the warm gray too. Let's use Luxor, the same color I used for his hair, to just do some line work on the scarf. I was gonna go orange, but I didn't think it would show up as well. So we're basically just reinforcing the lines that we created with our sketch earlier. You can make them darker in some spots, lighter. You can make it really sketchy if you want. It's really up to you. Honestly, when it comes to art, I think the most important thing is to just have fun. So hopefully you're enjoying doing art, because it's always nice to do things that you like to do and have fun and just get rid of some of those daily stresses. I think I'm just gonna grab a dark green or a medium green and we'll finish that up. Slightly darken up these lines around the edges. Show the seam of where his sleeve and the body of the shirt meet. Do I want to add a pattern? I could do stripes across this way with just pencil. Yeah, let's do it kind of quick. Something simple. It's one of those little added interests that is very easy to add, but it adds a lot of interest. All right, now I'm gonna grab this golden gesso. I don't need to be putting this in a palette since I'm not gonna be mixing any colors. So I just like to take the lid off and I'll just dab it from there. And it's somewhat translucent if it goes, you can put it on pretty thin, but I just want a metallic color for the earrings. A little sparkle. I'm gonna go back in with Luxor and just kind of add some dark, mostly to the bottom parts, See if it'll give it a little depth. I don't need to outline the entire earring. This part I tried to make it look like you could see the back side, but I don't think it worked very well. That's all right. And I can add a little bit of white highlight with the Prismacolor white pencil. And then I can do even brighter highlight with the white paint pen. Give it a good shake, mix it up. And we're gonna use it to add highlights wherever you really want a bright highlight. Just doing highlights around the tops. Just a little, since they're rounded, the light will hit it a little differently. Do a little on this one. I'm gonna highlight the top of his glasses. And then the top of the bottom frame, just where the light would hit it. We can clean up the highlights a little. Add a little extra highlight in the eye. Kind of clean up the edges a little highlight in the tear ducts. It's so easy to just go overboard using a white paint pen. It does pick up the gouache because the gouache is water reactive. I just want to add a little bit of glow to the top of this, not glow, but a highlight to the top of the cigarette. And maybe just like a little there, top of the lip. Maybe just a little bit on the cheeks. Maybe on the upper eyelid. Let's keep it simple with the highlights. I think that's it. All right, so for the background, I want to use this color here, which is a Jane Davenport Star Power. This feels like a Jane Davenport ad, but it's not, I swear. Not sponsored. I just love the products. But this is a very sparkly ink. So shake it up to get all that sparkle activated. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put water around him, and then we're gonna add the sparkly colors to it. And fingers crossed that it turns out. I think I'm gonna do a heavy blue down here and kind of have it fade as it goes up. All right, so we're just adding water once again, just around him, being mindful that the layer cakes are water reactive. I took the little clip off too because I didn't want there to be a white spot down here, so hopefully that'll be all right. And what I'm gonna do is after I've added the water, I'm gonna drop the ink on the bottom of the page where I'm working now, and I'm gonna help it blend on its way up. It has a button on the top that you can click, and it'll help fill up the dropper inside. And then we're just gonna blend that around. I thought a nice blue cool color would help him pop off the page since he has so many warm tones. So that's why I chose the blue. Plus it just makes me think of like a crisp autumn day. Rinse the brush out a couple times as we go. And just fade it away. You can even tilt the page too for a little extra help. We'll just do a couple of drops. And then we'll smear it around. I love using these because they add so much sparkle and it adds such a beautiful color. And it's so easy, especially since it has the eyedropper inside. And it's really nice too because it adds so much sparkle to the background, and since there's like not really any sparkle in him, it really like helps him pop off the page. You could also do the same thing with metallics, but who doesn't love a bit of glitter? So just trying to blend this last little bit out. Trying to keep it somewhat even. But now we can dry this and see how it looks. Sometimes I'll dry the back side as well. It'll help relax the paper because it'll curl a lot as you add the heat. But it also helps it just dry quicker. And as the water dries off, that sheer sheen disappears and you really see all the glitter come out. Alright, so after looking at him for a minute, I think I'm just going to add some white highlights, maybe to his scarf and his t-shirt, just subtle ones. And then probably bring some of the yellow gold up around him as like a little outline, a little halo, but subtle, just little bits of color here and there. And I think we can call him done. Thanks you guys for hanging out with us. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed painting it. Is it another one for the fridge? And to be honest, that Star Power ink is like making me so happy right now. Leave a comment down below. What color would you guys have chosen for the background? I personally think the blue makes him pop off the page really nicely, so. But maybe you have a better idea. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. If you like the video, please do like and subscribe. It helps the channel out. Leave a comment. Hello? I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye. Is a piece ever really done? I thought I could add a little bit of this orangey red to the end of the cigarette. All right. Now we're done.